On New Year's Day, 1656, a fleet of Spanish treasure galleons left Cuba's Havana harbor bound for Spain. Leading the fleet and packed to the gunwales with riches was the sleek Maravilla. Legend says she was cursed. On this voyage, the curse would claim her. The Maravilla never made it to Spain. Between 1552 and 1800, more than 2,000 Spanish treasure galleons were lost at sea in the Western Hemisphere, and only a precious few have ever been found. Along Florida's eastern coast and into the treacherous reefs of the Bahamas, the sea floor is strewn with shipwrecks and littered with millions of dollars in Spanish treasure. The Maravilla is the second richest Spanish galleon ever lost at sea. This is the story of one man's quest to find the Maravilla. The man is underwater archaeologist and treasure hunter Bob Marks.
Treasure is trouble, and the more the treasure, the more the trouble, and the Maravilla has been nothing but trouble. So it's like a cursed wreck. In fact, my wife, she doesn't even like to talk about the Maravilla. So when people ask me which one of your most important finds, I usually name about 20 other ones before I even get to the Maravilla, even though it's such a rich ship.
Finding the Maravilla was Marks's obsession, a 12-year odyssey that led him to this spot over 30 years ago. Today, 30 miles off the coast of the Bahamas, on the Little Bahama Bank, lies the wreckage of the Maravilla. These divers know that the privilege and opportunity to dive for treasure on the Maravilla is because of Bob Marks. Marks's struggle to find the Maravilla is legendary. But aboard the Beacon, the ship that works the site today, that struggle is nowhere to be found.
Great marking zone. Get the marking.
In the last 5 years, divers have hauled up millions of dollars of the Maravilla's riches, which is still only a fraction of what she was bringing back to King Philip IV of Spain. Today, as each piece of treasure is found, it is logged and checked against the Maravilla's manifest, the sum of which is more than 5 million pesos of gold and silver, jewelry, and millions more in emeralds, pearls, and other precious gemstones. The mysterious Maravilla came to be known as Marks's phantom wreck after she had eluded him for years. But this only spurred him on. It was his single-minded vision that drove him to Spain, where he buried himself in the Spanish archives in Seville, hoping to unlock the riddle and find the Maravilla. Marks called through more than 15,000 documents for clues, including this haunting prayer written by a priest who survived the shipwreck. Blessed by the light of day and the holy cross we say, blessed be the immortal soul and the Lord who keeps it whole. Blessed be the light of day and he who sends the night away.
All the ships returning from the New World, the last stop was Havana, and so they would come up through the Straits of Florida. They would try to sight Cape Canaveral, but then they knew that they were far enough north that they could head northeast for Bermuda, Azores, and home. What happened in the case of the Maravilla, the whole fleet, they turned to the east, northeast too soon. They were in the middle of the channel. They didn't see the Cape, but they assumed they were far enough north. They were 50 miles further south than the Cape.
That mistake turned out to be fatal. In the misty darkness just past midnight on January 4th, 1656, disaster would greet the Maravilla. Most of the ship's passengers and crew of 650 were asleep, settled in for the long journey, when the night lookout made an alarming discovery. They were in less than 20 feet of water. As a warning to the other ships, he fired a small cannon into the night. Then all hell broke loose.
So another ship ran right into the Maravilla, put a big hole in the side. The captain, to keep it from everybody drowning immediately, tried to go further up on a bank, hit a reef, it broke in two pieces. Some of the priests, after the ship hit the reef and was breaking up and the people knew they were going to drown, he was charging 200 pieces of 8 coins to hear their confession before they died. All the priests drowned first because they had all this treasure that they were charging for confessions.
As dawn broke on the Little Bahama Bank, rescuers from other ships spotted only 45 survivors clinging to bits of debris. The sea had claimed the Maravilla, more than 600 lives, and all of her treasures. The documents pointed marks to the Little Bahama Bank and 3,600 square miles of ocean.
During the course of that summer of 1972, we found 60 ancient wrecks on that Little Bahama Bank. The Maravilla is spread out over somewhere between 10 and 15 square miles with 30 feet of sand on top. That main part that broke away from the stern section went down south at least 6 or 7 or 8 miles, dropping goodies. Subsequent hurricanes over the years spread the stuff east and west also. So hurricanes move the sand, move the goodies, and redeposit the stuff, and that's the difficulty with a wreck like this. It's easy to find the iron anchors with the magnetometer, which we already have, but you can't find the rest of the wreck with any known equipment. So it's dig a hole, dig another hole.
The search went on for years. They found shipwrecks, but not Marx's phantom wreck, not the Maravilla.
And on 3 cases, we actually found gold when we made the test holes, and my divers were out of their mind saying, "Chief, we just found a great wreck. Why do we have to look for the Maravilla?"
Why? That was Marx's nagging question, and the answer, he knew, was right in the heart of the Bermuda Triangle.
It's right in the very center of the Bermuda Triangle. There are periods when a magnetometer and all your other electronic equipment won't work. There are periods when radios don't work. So there are freaky things that do happen over there, and I can't account for them. We also had a number of shark problems. I ended up with 268 stitches because I ran into a shark that didn't read my books and articles that sharks don't bite.
Despite all the obstacles, Marx woke up every morning with the dream that this might be the day. And when the magnetometer hit, he'd suit up and go down for a look.
Couldn't see it, of course, because it was 30 feet of sand, so when we blew the sand away, there were these anchors, and the first thing I found was a cannonball. So with my hammer, I knocked the coral off the cannonball, and there was the English broad arrow, which means British property. So normally you would say, forget it, it's the wrong wreck. So something told me. So I said, okay, let's dig a second hole next to the anchors.
On August 24th, 1972, when that hole was opened in the sand, Bob Marx stepped into his dream.
There were thousands of silver coins and gold coins and pewterware, candlestick holders and everything, so I knew it was the Maravilla then after all those 12 years.
Marx had hit the motherload. After 12 long years, it was no longer his phantom wreck. It was the Maravilla of Spain, more than 300 years since she vanished in the night. Ironically, the news of treasure discoveries travel fast. Within days, the area was thick with modern-day pirates.
We had 11 different times where with weapons, we actually had to chase boats away that were coming for us. In a couple of cases, we think there were people coming to take the treasure because, like all treasure stories, things get magnified. It was billions that we were bringing up, not millions, billions.
All the danger and controversy couldn't keep Bob Marx, treasure hunter and archaeologist, from retrieving artifacts from the ocean floor, each one a piece of history with an eerie story to tell.
One of the first silver bars that I brought up, an 80-pound silver bar, and it actually had the name of the captain of the ship on it. So this was his own personal bar. So I try to make things come back to life by finding names and documents about people.
The Maravilla was also bringing King Philip treasures from as far away as China.
This piece is probably worth $75,000, $80,000 today, and it has the inscription on the back also. We found lots and lots and lots of these gold bars. When they have the markings like here, the Roman XX1, it's 21 carats. Usually there's 50 to 100% the total value that's on the ship is contraband. And of the contraband, the most contraband is usually gold. And for example, this piece does not have any markings. It's crudely cast, probably cast in sand. It's 25 pounds of solid gold, no taxes. This was being smuggled back.
After 6 weeks, bringing up millions of dollars worth of treasure, the decks of Marx's boat were crammed to capacity with treasure and artifacts, and they headed into port. The rumors of billions had beaten them to the Bahamas. The Bahamian government was suspicious, and armed guards greeted him at the dock. Marx tried to convince them that there were no billions. They weren't being cheated. The government refused to believe him and banished him from the Bahamas. The curse of the Maravilla had struck again. Marx could never return to the site, but he was the only person alive who knew exactly where she was.
So there was a period of over 15 years that nobody worked on the wreck. And since that time, I've had a couple other companies work on the wreck. Marex from Memphis, Tennessee, led by Herbert Humphreys. And they've found a considerable amount of treasure in the last 5 years.
With Marx's help and detailed knowledge of the wreck, Marex has recovered millions more from the Maravilla. Bob shares a percentage. Bob Marx is a professional archaeologist and treasure hunter, and he has searches and salvage operations going in all parts of the world.
In '95, for example, I went 13 times around the world. If it wasn't fun, I won't do it. I got all these books I got to read, and I'm getting older and older all the time.
The many, many millions of dollars of treasure that has been retrieved from the Maravilla is only a small portion of what she had aboard. Still hiding in the sand is a life-size statue like this one of the Madonna and Child, cast in solid gold. For Marx, the Maravilla has been both a blessing and a curse.
Trying to say how much treasure you found, it's very, very, very difficult. But multi-millions, let's put it that way. But I had investors, the government of Bahamas got a cut. The Spanish government stepped in and decided they owned the wreck, so I spent a fortune with legal things. I even tangled with the mafia. They claim I had to deal with them, some guys from Las Vegas. That was a lawsuit that cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars and quite a few scares. So it's been a curse, a lot of trouble.
Today, these Marex divers are sharing a dream with Bob Marx. It is the spirit of adventure and discovery that beckons them all. The Spanish galleon Maravilla may have been found, but the ocean still clutches most of her secrets.
It will produce forever and ever. It's just one of these wrecks that produces. There were always good days. The thrill of discovery, it's in my blood.
We're on a street in Mayfair, one of the most exclusive neighborhoods here in London. Across the street, in a small office above the Royal China Shop, archivists are working their way through an incredible collection of Hollywood photographs. A collection that went undiscovered for almost 50 years. Frank Worth was one of hundreds of photographers who documented the lives of the Hollywood stars as they arrived at premieres, dined out at Chasen's, and promoted their movies. What makes Frank Worth different is that he was photographing people who were his trusted friends, as well as being movie stars. As a result, virtually none of these pictures were ever seen by anyone other than Frank Worth himself.
The apartment it looked like it hadn't been cleaned in 30 years. I had to put on a mask and latex gloves to go through it.
Stuart Harris is a cousin and the executor of Frank Worth's estate. What he discovered in Worth's Hollywood apartment was as many as 10,000 negatives, the majority of which no one knew even existed.
The pictures themselves were in complete disarray, just sitting in these old cardboard boxes, in envelopes, just negatives loose. There was no order at all.
Stuart Harris has entrusted Nicholas Jordan and his small London company Cinemage with the job of finding all the hidden gems which could make this collection the richest cache of Hollywood photos ever found.
Howard Muty Muse is helping with the enormous job looking for photographic treasures of this bygone Hollywood era.
When the photographs were found, how were they preserved? Or were they just stuffed in envelopes and in boxes, or did they have them in plastic?
When we started to delve actually into the boxes, then we found the negatives, which some of them hadn't even been taken out of their original envelopes, and that's where the real discovery began.
Amazing.
A lot of photographers could go and exploit the fact that they have these images. He didn't, because he saw them as friends rather than money machines. He wasn't one of the other paparazzi. He had an access into a sort of secret world of glitz and glam that we don't see. We certainly don't see it with any of the other photographers.
And they trusted him.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why, through that trust, that built up trust, that he would be invited into their homes.
He would never double-cross, backstab. The friendship was always at the forefront.
As a result, Worth went where he pleased, when he pleased, without the restrictions of the still powerful studio system, which tightly controlled the public images of its stars.
These are behind-the-scenes shots from Giant, and there, as you can see, Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson, they're just relaxing, unbelievable pictures in a world where studios controlled photos. Dean had actually invited Frank Worth onto the set as a friend and said, come along, take a few snaps. He knew he was a talented photographer. And these photos never been seen.
Like this one of James Dean, relaxing after having raced his car.
That's a wonderful shot.
It's great.
They were admiring a car. That was how they met. Frank had tastes in cars. He liked cars. He liked automobiles. And Frank, being able to talk to anybody, spoke to James Dean because he didn't know James Dean was a star.
Your son, Aaron, he's everything that's good.
Say hello to your mother!
I was invited to East of Eden, and I was a little late getting there. I missed all the credits. And here comes Jimmy Dean. I said, oh my God, I said to myself, I said, great, he got himself a bit part. Well, 5 minutes later, I suddenly realized that he was the star.
James Dean as Cal, the wildest boy you've ever met.
I said, oh, I was so mad I couldn't get over it. I ran to a phone. I called him up and said, you dirty, rotten fink. How could you do this to me? You're a star.
He's captured the man deep in thought.
Very pensive mood.
Very pensive.
Yeah, that really embodies Dean right there. With the barbed wire and...
Yeah, it's a classic.
It's a great picture.
These shots of James Dean are amongst 100 of the photos being made into high-quality exhibition prints for a show on Frank Worth. The prints are being prepared by Mel Davis, a darkroom master printer who has been entrusted with the making of them.
What was your initial reaction when you saw these photos and negatives?
It's fantastic. It's also a pleasure to do. To do these, it's sort of like, as I say, a dream come true. It's just so amazing.
Right.
The naturalness of the shots, or the innocence of the shots, if you like.
Absolutely.
And the ability to take pictures that people never even knew he had the camera.
Mm-hmm.
He had that wonderful ability to make people relaxed.
Let's compare with the original print here. Now this is a print that Frank Worth did.
He did
from his neck.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's cropped it in more, but somehow I feel that if he looked at this, he'd like this better than that. This has got more atmosphere.
Creating high-quality prints is an essential step in making these incredible photos publishable and purchasable.
More what I've seen of the original prints, he just went for the subject matter and let whatever will be, will be. He was more of a photographer than a printer.
Right.
He could come to anybody's house. The studios invited him. In the morning, he would get a list of what was being shot on the sets. Some sets were closed, some were open. He said all the sets were open to him. There wasn't a director that didn't like having him around.
This is well-known situation where Marilyn's dress was blowing up. Now
7-year itch.
It actually got Billy Wilder, the director, setting up for the actual shoot, and you can see he's brushing Marilyn's hair back. The famous shot, which was released, was not taken by Frank. Frank Worth actually took the original shot, which makes this an incredible find. They actually recreated this situation for the paparazzi, and for many other photographers in another situation. But the actual evening this was taken, Frank was the guy who took the first one, because he was friends with Marilyn.
Mrs. Joe DiMaggio, Marilyn Monroe that is, arrives with Joe in Tokyo for a month's honeymoon in Japan.
Frank Worth was even invited along on Marilyn's honeymoon trip to Japan. Here's a terrific shot of her with Betty Grable and Lauren Bacall while they were shooting How to Marry a Millionaire.
Frank was around for Marilyn's entire career. First of all, you couldn't take a bad picture of Marilyn Monroe, and I think that's one of the reasons that attracted him to her. And one of the things that attracted her to him was he was friendly. He was a nice guy who was never looking to use her. He never used anybody.
Not even in death, it turns out. Frank Worth never revealed he had an affair with Monroe until just a few months before his own death.
Frank was a very quiet guy. When he died, there was no mention of him in the newspaper. He didn't like to talk. He didn't like to talk about his relationship with Marilyn. It was only in his later years, I mean, when he was in his 70s, when we used to have talks and he would, bring up some of these things.
The thing about the collection and Frank Worth's work is that it encapsulates almost every single icon from that era, of the entire golden era of Hollywood, which in itself makes the collection very rare.
And very valuable. For Nick and Howard, going through the negatives is a treasure hunt of its own. High-quality photographs of movie stars like James Dean, Elizabeth Taylor, and Marilyn Monroe can command fees of $5,000 to $10,000, and that's just for a one-time usage. Over time, each of these photos can earn hundreds of thousands of dollars for the licensing alone. That, the sale of the exhibition prints, and a book of Frank Worth photos all add up to a potential treasure worth millions of dollars for Stuart Harris and the Cinemage Group. Meanwhile, the discoveries just keep coming.
Here's Marlon Brando.
This is the Marlon Brando
post-Oscar party.
Yeah, this was the evening he won the Oscar for On the Waterfront.
Look at that.
This is Elizabeth Taylor. This is a beautiful shot of her arriving for her first wedding.
This is from Giant as well?
Yeah, these are behind-the-scenes shots.
Yeah, that shot of Elizabeth Taylor.
And in fact, these are some even more intimate shots between Elizabeth Taylor and Frank, taken in a quiet moment, offset.
They're beautiful.
Again on the set of Giant, and these are some of the most intimate and stunning photos ever taken of Elizabeth Taylor. I mean, that shot itself is
just fantastic.
Amazing. Look at that. And these were never published?
Never published.
Incredible.
A few weeks ago we found some unseen pictures of Monroe. We found a whole sequence of Rita Hayworth from 1939, which had never even been taken out of their original packets.
This incredible parade of Hollywood photos suddenly ends in 1960. Frank Worth never explained why he stopped, but his beloved Brooklyn Dodgers had just arrived in Los Angeles, and Frank switched over to photographing sports. He became a major contributor to the sporting news, credited with almost 30 covers a year, right up through the 1980s.
The only photographs he ever sold were photographs to fan magazines, photographs that the stars would approve of. His ability to be discreet was basically unique because in Hollywood, having dirt was a currency. But Frank never did anything like that. People could trust Frank. You told something to Frank and no one ever heard about it. I mean, I didn't hear about Marilyn Monroe until 30 years after she was dead. He kept her trust forever.
Coming up on the hunt for amazing treasures. It took them years to find it. A wreck holding an enormous cache of gold bullion. But could it be recovered from the deep ocean floor? Coming up on the hunt for amazing treasures. They were films no one had any use for, thrown away as trash, until this man turned them into treasure.
Jenny thinks that she has the key to popularity, parking in cars with the boys at night.
Some of us can remember sitting in a classroom, a 16mm projector groaning in the background, watching educational films. From the benefits of large-scale industrial production to social etiquette in the school cafeteria.
Nothing like being Miss Popularity.
Yeah.
The titles are clear and explicit. There's no mistaking what these films are about. So can cinematic curiosities like these possibly be called treasure? Well, to Rick Prelinger, that's exactly what they are. And he's been hunting them down now for over 20 years.
I've found films in basements and in dark rooms and in abandoned buildings, and sometimes people have showed up on the front steps with a carton full of film or even a truckload full of film and said, "Here, take it."
This is a story about how trash got turned into treasure. Because Rick Prelinger was the only person who believed these forgotten artifacts had any value at all, pulling many of them right out of the garbage.
I didn't know why I was doing this, but it seemed important. Maybe only because nobody else was doing it.
In downtown Manhattan, in a warehouse in the meatpacking district, Prelinger has amassed an enormous treasure trove of films, over 48,000 of them, piled high on shelves that go right up to the ceiling.
I remember when I was a kid in school, we would have assemblies and we'd see films from the Bell system, or we'd see films about how our local newspaper is printed. And I guess these were advertising, but they were also interesting films.
Prelinger calls them ephemeral films, films made for the moment, not for posterity, which is why no one thought they were worth saving until Rick Prelinger came along.
Take a film like Are You Popular? That's a pretty ordinary garden variety social guidance film made for high school kids.
Popularity. What is it made of? How does a person get to be popular with lots of people and have a few close friends too?
This little 10-minute film has a lot in there. It explains all about like the culture of high school. There's the good girls and the bad girls. There's the cliques, you know, like in the movie Heathers. There's a little explanation about the proper way for a boy to ask a girl out on a date.
Hello. Oh, hello, Wally.
The boy calls for the girl on his date and meets the parents.
How do you do, Mr. Ames?
Here I am, darling. And I suppose this is Wally.
That's right, Mrs. Ames. How do you do?
Well, it's nice meeting you.
All of these archetypal moments, and you know, this film will make us laugh, but there's sociology, anthropology, history, gender roles, you name it, in just this little 10-minute film. This is the end of Dating Do's and Don'ts, which is kind of, again, one of these definitive social guidance films, and Woody's has to say goodnight to Jean, and since it's his first date, he doesn't really know how to say goodnight, and there's some opportunities. He could assault her, which obviously isn't too cool.
One more way. It's getting late.
Yes, it is. I'd ask you in for a bite to eat if it weren't so late. Let's try to get home in time for a sandwich or something next time.
Say, that sounds good. I'll call you next week.
These are films that no one took very seriously, often victims of their own hokiness.
Duck and cover.
But over time, they've become some of the most vivid and historical of cultural documents.
We must be ready for a new danger, the atomic bomb.
During the Cold War, there were hundreds and hundreds of films made, mostly by the U.S. government, as part of civil defense activities, how to protect ourselves against atomic attack, how to survive the A-bomb.
We're tight against the wall this way.
Now, a lot of people are feeling pretty paranoid and scared, so in a way these films have a new relevance.
And the Library of Congress agrees with him.
It reflects the naivete of the early 50s when it was believed that a nuclear war could be survived. I would say now it looks like propaganda, but I think it was made by well-intended government bureaucrats who really believed that this was going to effectively help Americans survive what they feared probably would be the next generation of warfare.
Over the years, Prelinger's passion verged on obsession as he single-mindedly tracked down ephemeral treasures like this one.
Hello, yes, this is Mary. How are you? Bye.
Once Upon a Honeymoon is a Hollywood musical made to promote color telephones. In 1956, the Bell system put out color telephones for the first time.
A bright red phone. I gotta go. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. I'll call you later.
So the telephone became a decorator, accessory, rather than something you'd use to call the doctor or call into work.
Word spread about this crazy fellow who'd collect what most people were throwing in the trash, and the flow of films began to outstrip not only Prellinger's finances, but also his small storage space. But then, he discovered the silver lining in what he was doing.
2 years after I started collecting, somebody came to me and they said, "Do you have footage? We need footage for a TV show, and can you help us?" And I realized that suddenly people wanted what I've got and they were willing to pay money for it.
Was Prellinger spinning flax into gold without knowing it? Income started to pour in, paying for warehouse space he badly needed for the thousands of films he kept finding.
But I loved the idea of being able to earn money from this collection so that I could support more collecting. I thought, gosh, I find a film for $10 and I can sell a clip for $1,000. This is wonderful.
Clips from films like these, used mainly in television documentaries and commercials, can sell for up to $75 a second.
New materials of intriguing lightness and great strength.
One film, which has been especially lucrative, is about modern design.
We can all depend on the stylist to beautify everything we need. The hand of the stylist is ever designing changes to improve our life of the future.
But the real payoff was yet to come, in the guise of the U.S. government.
And film and sound recording materials are ways of capturing someone's idea of a time and place, and they are just as important and just as worth saving as books, magazines, and newspapers.
So important that the Library of Congress is acquiring the entire collection, giving Rick Prellinger $500,000 for it, while allowing him to continue licensing the clips. Ironically, the U.S. government, one of the largest producers of the films Prellinger has rescued, is paying him for having saved them, as well as all the other films in the collection.
Ephemeral films are time capsules. They tell us what we looked like, they tell us how we thought, they tell us what our attitudes were toward very many of the common mores in our society. And they're a roadmap to how we've changed since filmmaking began in the late 19th century.
Over time, the library will be investing upwards of several $1 million to house, preserve, and catalog all 48,000 films, which have come a long way from the garbage bins Rick Prellinger found them in. While the collection is moved to its new home, Prellinger is making over 1,000 of these films available online. And of course, he'll continue searching for the treasures he's still finding, like this one, about voting machines.
But not for well-intentioned mistakes, not in this age of the voting machine.
This could be right out of today's headlines, but this film was made in the 1950s.
Behind the Freedom Curtain is a wonderful film. It was made by a manufacturer of voting machines, and it explains how voting machines mean that you're going to have an accurate and fair election.
Don't, lady. It doesn't count.
Because you just flip that switch. And it says that with voting machines, we won't have the kind of problem or disputes that we had in Florida just a few years ago.
It's too bad nobody paid attention to this one.
We Americans are kind of a nostalgic nation, and we're also a nation of collectors. And these films tend to give us a very sort of gut feeling about what the past was like when we watch them again. Because when you look back into that history, you begin to understand how we became who we are today.
Want to know where the real treasure is in any museum? Go into the Egyptian galleries and try to elbow your way into the Mummy Room, whether it's the British Museum in London or the Metropolitan Museum in New York. Not only will there be mummies to look at, but there will be souvenirs to sell.
There's a whole array of Egyptian-inspired objects that get sold in the gift shops, be it chocolate mummies or even neckties like my own. I think it's a huge benefit to the museum. It's really, I think, essential for any institution to have an Egyptian mummy.
The Tutankhamun tour brought millions of dollars into museum tills, proving a mummy is a treasure that a modern museum just can't do without. So in 1989, a small museum at the University of Illinois at Urbana acquired a mummy of its very own.
The mummy was gifted to the university from a private collector who either passed on or put the collection itself up for auction and was then gifted it to the museum.
No one knew where it came from or how it was obtained, and this presented a problem because without this knowledge, the former director couldn't put it on display. To turn this mummy into the treasure the museum wanted it to be would mean solving the mystery of where it came from and who it was inside all that wrapping. So they asked Sarah Wisseman, an archaeologist at the university, to help out.
And I had known, because I used to work at the museum, that they've been trying very hard to get an Egyptian mummy. We wanted to see how much we could find out about the age and the sex of the person inside the wrapping, something about that person's life, any health problems, disease, possibly the cause of death.
The 4.5-foot-long potential treasure was shaped only vaguely like a human, and it was broken off at the ankles. There were no inscriptions or any information on what tomb it came from. All that remained were, well, the remains itself. This was an exciting opportunity for Sarah Wisseman, but it came along with one absolute condition.
The museum director stipulated that anything we did to the mummy had to be very cautious, because this is a priceless artifact as far as the museum is concerned. It was also the museum's only human mummy, so anything we did had to be non-destructive.
And non-invasive. In other words, whatever they were to find out about this mummy, they would have to learn without disturbing it in any way. Past scientific investigations were not so limited. Researchers were able to not only unwrap, but to autopsy as well. So Sarah had to solve the mystery of the mummy's identity without doing anything that might harm it. Establishing its age turned out to be easy, as an analysis of the wrapping decoration placed the date about 100 AD. But how this mummy found its way to the American Midwest was still a complete mystery.
Just like with European travelers during what is called the Grand Tour, so travelers would go to places like Italy and Egypt and bring back souvenirs of their trip. Certainly one of the more favorite objects to bring back would have been an Egyptian mummy. It was just a curiosity, something a little strange to show their friends, I guess.
That it was brought back as a souvenir didn't help in identifying it. The only thing left was to take a look inside, first by X-ray.
It was clear that this was not an adult because the ends of the long bones weren't fused. So our physical anthropologist said straight off, it looks like we have a preteen, we have a child here. And this was backed up by the teeth that you could see in the jaw. We had baby teeth with adult teeth coming in right behind.
This explained why the mummy was so short, just barely over 4 feet tall. But it also meant the pelvic bones were not developed enough to give any indication of the child's sex. Hardly enough information to satisfy the museum, which left just one last thing they could try, a CAT scan.
CAT scans allow you to take visual slices of an object, sort of like a hard-boiled egg slicer.
Sarah had to get her mummy to the hospital fast, when suddenly a slot opened in the schedule. With CAT scan imagery, perhaps they could identify distinctive methods of embalming. That could tell them about the social status of the mummy's family. The staff was ready and waiting, but CAT scanning a mummy presented its own unique challenges.
When we do CT scans of live patients, we have normal anatomy that we're used to looking at. The embalming process dries out any organs that may have been left there, so their shape is distorted. They may be in a different position within the body. So it's the entire imaging process is much more challenging because it's not the normal anatomy we see in a live patient.
The CAT scans gave us new information about the embalming procedures used in the Roman period, and it was significant that the brain was still in place, that it hadn't been taken out as it had in earlier periods, In other words, we think now that this child received one of the better embalming jobs for the Roman period.
Which meant the child had to be from a high social class. Another piece of useful information, but still not enough to satisfy what the museum needed. There was still one last thing they could try. Luckily for the investigation, the Urbana campus is a center for supercomputer research.
And we thought that by using three-dimensional reconstruction software that we could get a little more information.
If a three-dimensional view could be created from the CAT scan data, that just might give them a little more to go on. The image generated was better than anyone expected. A high-quality video model of the skull.
If you look back here at the posterior aspect of the skull, you can see how there's several areas of fracture and the skull's actually been pushed in.
Death by trauma from a blunt instrument? Without being able to examine the skull directly, impossible to be sure. But the possibility of a violent death led to the next step. A forensic sculptor was brought in. This is a procedure frequently used in criminal investigations. But in this case, instead of a real skull, he'd be working from this image of one. Slowly, as features began to take shape, a discernible human face began to emerge from the modeling clay, and suddenly, there was the identity they'd been searching for. They didn't know the sex, and they couldn't be sure what the cause of death was. But they were able to put a human face on this mysterious child who had traveled so far to its final resting place in southern Illinois. And the museum had an identity for its mysterious mummy. Well, enough of an identity to make it possible to put it on display.
That being probably the only mummy in this particular part of the state, so it offers a unique experience for our visitors. There is a fascination with mummies and mummification, and particularly, I think, among our younger visitors that'll be fascinated by it.
The mummy has recently been in storage while the Spurlock Museum moves into a brand new home. Technicians remove it from its climate-controlled storage container and place it in a new specially designed display of its very own.
The ancient Egyptians placed a very high value on preserving the tissues, preserving the body, because they believed this was important for the person to go into the afterlife, that various aspects of the spirit had to be able to come back to the body.
So perhaps Sarah Wisseman and the museum were somehow fulfilling this ancient Egyptian belief by giving this 2,000-year-old mummy a sense of identity it had lost somewhere on its journey to southern Illinois.
I suppose for people, when they see a body that is 2,000-3,000 years old in that range, it's a connection with these people of the past that attracts people.
Especially if that person of the ancient past is something more than just the wrappings they were buried in.
Come closer. I want to talk to you. I'm going to tell you an astounding story. The story of the Maltese Falcon. 600 years the Falcon has carried the mystery of a fabulous wealth under its grotesque wings. I could tell you 1,000 tales of the men and women who have hunted this evil bird. But every story has the same ending. Murder.
Well, this story isn't about murder, but it is about the passionate pursuit of the legendary Maltese Falcon. The movie prop, that is. The Maltese Falcon is one of the great detective movies of all time. Taken from Dashiell Hammett's classic novel, it was John Huston's directorial debut, and Humphrey Bogart's portrayal of Gumshoe Sam Spade created a screen legend. In the movie, everyone is looking for a statue of a golden falcon encrusted with jewels. It turns out to be a fake made of lead. The falcon prop disappeared from Warner Brothers after the movie was made. As could only happen in Hollywood, it replaced the fabled bird as a much sought-after treasure. And just like the movie, many have tried to pass off fake falcons as the real thing. Until Dr. Gary Milan, that is. His authentic blackbird, as it's affectionately known, is on loan to a museum back at its birthplace, Warner Brothers Studio in Burbank, California. Dr. Milan's movie treasures from his other favorite film, Casablanca, can also be seen at the museum, including Ingrid Bergman's passport and the piano from Rick's Cafe. In fact, it was his sale of the piano from the Paris flashback scene that led him to the legendary bird.
The Maltese Falcon was a serendipitous find, a wonderful treasure that when I purchased it I wasn't even positive was the Maltese Falcon. For years I'd collected, since I was 8, all kinds of things, Revolutionary War articles, manuscripts, documents, movie memorabilia, and my mother thought I was a little crazy. I was fortunate enough to get the piano and sort of became famous or infamous for being a Casablanca collector. Someone called me and said, "I have the Maltese Falcon, would you like it?" My response was, "Let's see, I've seen 250 bad Maltese Falcons. Why do you think you have it?" He said, "Well, I think it's right. It's lead and it's very heavy." So I went to see it, and there lying in a box was the Maltese Falcon.
Instinct told him to buy it, but how could he be sure it was the real McCoy? Dr. Milan enlisted the aid of rare document dealer and movie memorabilia expert Charles Sachs.
The process, of course, of authenticating it was a matter of going through the literature at Warner Brothers, going through the archive, and finding the inter-office communications that might mention the making of the bird itself or the creation of the prop. And we found a few things that gave us a trail to follow.
One way to verify Dr. Milan's Falcon was by its weight, almost 50 pounds.
Houston was a stickler for accuracy, and he called for a lead bird of significant weight, just as Dashiell Hammett describes the bird in the novel, as being very heavy. You can see Bogart actually grimace and start down the stairs very gingerly and sort of tuck the bird to his chest and lean back slightly, and you know that he's carrying something very heavy. One of the office communications said was that during one of the rehearsals, the Falcon, which weighs 47 pounds because it's made of lead, was dropped and almost broke Humphrey Bogart's toe.
We took photographs off of the actual film, and there's a bent tail feather on one side of the bird that compares exactly, along with other little notches, to the photographs, and we knew that we had the real Maltese Falcon, the one seen on the film. We even know that one of the prop men that was involved has been interviewed by the Warner Brothers Museum, and they said there were 2 of the Maltese Falcons. They used to use them as lead weights, like barbells, when they were doing the film. So we know there's only 2 authentic Maltese Falcons.
2 falcons? For years, Dr. Milan's Falcon was the only one known to exist. Then a second falcon surfaced to be auctioned off at Christie's in New York City.
One day here at Christie's, I received a phone call from Mrs. William Conrad, the widow of the actor William Conrad. And she said that she had some things of her husband's which she might like us to look at and appraise and perhaps sell, scripts, some photographs, letters, etc. And almost as an afterthought, she said to me, "Oh, and we have this lead bird which has been sitting on the shelf in the television room for the last, 30 years, etc. Maybe you could take a look at that for me." And I knew that Mr. Conrad was a director on the Warner Brothers lot in the early 60s. So she described it to me, and I thought to myself, this could be the Maltese Falcon, but figured the odds would probably be 1 in 100 million. The piece was sent to me in New York, and when the crate was opened, I actually went to the shipping department and stood there when they pulled the Falcon out. And they took all the bubble wrap and the shredded paper and etc. around it. And when I looked at it, I realized that, in fact, it was the genuine Maltese Falcon.
Why the late Jack Warner had given it to his friend Conrad may never be known, but there was no doubt it was genuine.
It was the correct prop number stamped underneath the bird. It had the slashes in the shoulder, in the front of the head. It was the perfect bronze color.
The scratch marks, for example, on the breast of the bird, because as you recall, Sidney Greenstreet sort of scratches at the bird in his frenzy to peel the crust away and get to the underneath part. And so, of course, on the prop there are similar scratch marks.
News of the impending sale of this legendary icon spread like wildfire, attracting potential buyers from around the world, and all but ensuring that it would go for more than the pre-sale estimate of $30,000 to $50,000.
We finally had to call people back and say, if you're not prepared to go over 6 figures, we can't even have you on the telephone. The podium was active, the room was packed, I was not on the phone, I was standing there watching, and the bidding started, $30,000. Kept going, kept going, kept going. The room, this person was bidding to $250, and I'm standing there saying, okay, well, there goes my idea of $2 to $225.
At $340,000.
And all of a sudden, I noticed a man standing to my left in the back of the auction room, sort of behind a pole, with a hat and glasses and a newspaper covering his face, and he has a paddle in his hand.
$360,000. Many more. Selling them at $360,000.
Including commission, the total price came to $398,500.
As soon as the hammer went down, he dropped his paddle on the floor and turned and walked out of the room. And all of my associates, and most importantly the credit manager, turned around and looked at me and said, and the PR person, "Who is that?" I said, "I have no idea."
The mystery buyer was determined to remain mysterious, for as prominently as he showcases his jewels, Ronald Winston of the famed Harry Winston Jewelers refuses the public eye and the camera lens. At the press conference following the sale, a Humphrey Bogart lookalike showed off Winston's new treasure in his stead.
Well, I've always been a great fan of Humphrey Bogart, and I've always loved the movie because it deals with the intrigue and romance and search of something precious. And in fact, that's what I do every day in my daily life, is to try and find precious things, usually stones.
A year after paying almost $400,000 for the Falcon, Winston stated he sold the bird for a substantial profit. He refused to confirm or deny the price tag, nor disclose the buyer's name. The rumors quickly flew.
Several months ago, I heard that it had been sold for $1 million in Europe.
Once more, the bird was cloaked in mystery, and the treasure quotient heightened when Winston announced plans to create his own version of the mythical Falcon. In his jewelry workshop high above Fifth Avenue, the Harry Winston Falcon, made from a mold of the original bird, gets its finishing touches. Clothed in 4.5 pounds of 18-karat gold, it sees the world through Burmese ruby eyes.
I wanted to bring the legend alive and finish the story that was never finished in the movie.
The bird has an almost 43-karat diamond and a selling price of $8.5 million. But it is still not the stuff dreams are made of, as Sam Spade said. In Dr. Milan's eyes, that makes his lead bird worth much more.
Would I ever consider selling the Maltese Falcon? No, it probably is worth what it is, $1 million, but what would I do with the money? I'd go out and buy something else anyway, and I couldn't part with it. It's sort of a part of me.
Perhaps to own the Falcon is to own your dreams. To live the legend of Bogey, to fall for a woman like Mary Astor, to do battle with the Fat Man, and to search for fabled riches.
I think in this case, life has definitely imitated art, because if you know the cast of characters, or the collectors, let's just say, who have been chasing this around the globe, it very much mirrors the film. Bogart is this smooth, stealth, sort of master manipulator, and I think a lot of men in this role really identify with him.
Dr. Milan often goes to the museum to visit his Falcon.
I come by and visit him and talk to him. You know, he does talk. And he will probably say, I am the stuff that dreams are made of.
All these props are the stuff that dreams are made of. Films are the stories of the stuff that dreams are made of. And dreams play an important part of our life.
And so, as long as men covet, desire, and dream, they will also seek out elusive treasures like the Maltese Falcon.
Coming up on the hunt for amazing treasures. It took them years to find it, a wreck holding an enormous cache of gold bullion. But could it be recovered from the deep ocean floor?
Cape Finisterre on the northwest coast of Spain. The sea lanes here are considered to be the most treacherous in the world. This is a graveyard of broken and sunken ships and the site of a classic tale of treasure. It was here on the night of April 2nd, 1882, that the Royal Mail steamship Duro was struck by a Spanish liner bound for Havana, Cuba. The Reuters report, carried in the April 5th edition of the London Times, confirmed the loss of the Duro, 39 of her passengers, and all of her cargo. The Duro was carrying coffee from Brazil, but she also had on board a shipment of 28,000 gold sovereigns, as well as a large amount of gold bullion. The loss of this much treasure would have triggered an immediate salvage operation, but in 1882 there was no technology for retrieving anything from the depth the ship sank to, over 1,500 feet. So the Duro and her cargo lay forgotten for the next 100 years. Forgotten until a note came to the attention of professional shipwreck researcher Nigel Pickford.
I came across this note in my father's diary, just a pencil note, in which he just scribbled Duro, 1st of April 1882.
Nigel's father, Charles, had also made a career of researching shipwrecks and had made a notation on the Duro.
He'd obviously followed it up and decided that it was far too deep to be salvageable. But when I came across this a good number of years later, I thought, it might be worth having another look at. It turned out to be more interesting than I guessed it would be.
With new technology that was beginning to make deep water recoveries possible, Nigel decided to continue his father's research. On and off for the next 10 years, he plowed through old newspapers, logbooks, ship registries, and many, many charts.
It's a kind of historical detection work. You all the time you're following a trail of clues. You move from one place to another. One thing leads to another.
But even more important than the wreck's location, Pickford had to absolutely verify the existence of the gold.
You need, obviously, to do a lot of work on the cargo, because you want to be sure that what you're going for really exists.
And then he found what he was looking for.
I managed to find in some original banking records that there were £30,000 worth of sovereigns on board. We were able to be confident that the vast majority of the cargo was gold.
Now, with the existence of the gold cargo confirmed, Nigel turned to a well-known Swedish treasure hunter, Sverker Hallström.
It started with he turned over his research. I studied it, and I call him and say, look, this looks interesting. I think I would like to look for this one.
But Hallström knew there were still questions to be answered before he could commit to the project.
Each project has different criteria, but everything has to fit in. First of all, is the treasure there? And if you feel convinced the treasure is there, can I find it? So I have to look concentrating on the search area. What search area would I feel confident with?
The challenges were immense. Up until that time, a cargo of gold had never been recovered from inside a collapsed and rusting iron hull. And the search area contained many other unidentified wrecks from the same era.
The Bay of Biscay has always been a bad place for shipwrecks because weather conditions are pretty horrendous there.
Costa de la Muerte means actually the coast of death. So there is many, many hundreds of wrecks there.
Although Nigel Pickford had targeted a general area where the Duro sank, it was up to Sverker to actually find it.
I have to put it together. I have to put out the course, what course did the Rurok Bat have? What course did the Duro have?
When it comes to determining a search area, he would go through all the evidence and I would go through all the evidence and we'd discuss it and, come up with a search area where we thought it had to be.
In fact, the search area was almost 100 square miles. There was also one last issue to resolve. If they did find the Duro, would they also be able to salvage her?
I felt strongly that should I find a wreck, somehow I will get up the gold.
In 1995, while Nigel was still researching, the technology for deep water recoveries was moving fast. Sverker knew if they found the ship, there was every chance for a successful recovery. The very next summer, he took to sea and began the search for the Duro.
I know that one of the best parts with shipwrecks is that they don't run away. They stay where they are until they find them. It's not like, you know, they're there one day and gone the next. That's the beauty of it.
After days of searching the bottom, they catch sight of what might be a ship's bell.
I really want to find something, you know, and that's not easy. In the end, it's, you know, off the seabed, a little bit in the seabed, sticks up a little bit only of something. We dig around there, and it turned out to be the ship's bell. It was right at the top of the ship's bell. And we maneuvering around and managed to get that bell in a manipulator.
The Remote Observation Vehicle, or ROV, slowly rises to the surface.
And you can imagine the interest, you know, of reading on that bell the name of the ship. I hope for is going to be Duro. When the bell came up, obviously it was very interesting to see, was this a Duro or was it not? It was not.
Disappointed but undeterred, Sverker continues to look at other wrecks littering the designated search area. But fishnets snagged onto the wreckage are an ever-present danger for the ROV, which could easily become ensnared and lost. Then, sitting there alone on the sandy bottom, a white china bowl. As the ROV draws closer, they can make out an insignia, not quite visible. But it does look like the stylish lion and unicorn crest of the Royal Mail Steam Packet Company. Could this be from the Duro? Had Sverker finally located the elusive wreck? This bowl could tell them, and it was up to the ROV and its mechanical arm to retrieve it.
Now we decide to go up, take the ROV, and see if we can see something. We start getting up, and we got it in that sort of little basket. And then we start going up to the surface, but a few 100 feet off the seabed, this thing falls out. And we go down again, and we are searching again, and searching again, and searching again, and then bang, we see it. And this time we were lucky, and we saw sort of a logo on it, and we zoomed in on it, and then we could see very clearly that it was from the Duro. Years of search and bad weather, just name it, was over.
We could see this mark here, and it was full of mud up to here, so we could only see Royal Mail, and we see the logo, we see the horse, so we know this is the right ship, this is the Duro.
They had finally found the Duro, but celebration quickly gave way to the real challenge, a deep water recovery that was way beyond anything Sverker had ever attempted. Because of the extreme depth of the wreck, Sverker and Nigel took on a third partner, Blue Water Recovery, the owner of a highly sophisticated ship, the Deep Sea Worker. Blue Water had retrofitted the ship for underwater recoveries. It boasted a highly accurate satellite navigation system which could hold the ship in position above the wreck. But the key was the enormous mechanical grab, which they could lower to the wreck for the salvaging operation itself.
We did consider all sorts of different options for recovering the cargo, but when the possibility of using that came up, it definitely seemed like a favoured one. It has a pulling power of over 100 tons, and it can, if needs be, pull a ship apart And with a ship like the Duro, you didn't really have to pull it apart because, as I say, it was an iron ship and the iron was very, very corroded.
There was still one thing they needed to know. Where exactly on board the Duro was the gold?
The total size of the gold cargo was not much bigger than a suitcase full. So you need to know where to, having found your ship is only the beginning of the solution.
Where was the gold? It could be something like 1 day salvage to like 30 days, or maybe much more. We didn't know.
They knew the gold was kept in a strong room, but where in the 300-foot-long ship was it located?
We didn't know where the bullion room was. We could only guess from drawings from other ships.
They studied the blueprints of the Nile, a ship the same size as the Duro and built in the same shipyard. Was it possible the strong rooms in both ships could be in the same location? The giant grab was lowered down. It started bringing up loads of wreckage, dumping it on deck. The location turned out to be exactly right. Poking out from the mud were shiny gold sovereigns, dozens of them. Then they started to be found in clumps. It wasn't long after that the first gold bars started to appear. Remarkably, it took the deep-sea worker only 2 days to recover over 90% of the treasure, 28,000 gold sovereigns and almost 200 gold bars. Under the ancient law of salvage at sea, the treasure was deposited with the receiver of wreck. It would be held for a year and a day, giving any owners an opportunity to come forward and claim the cargo. All kinds of debris was brought up with the Duro's treasure, from portals to decorative brass to intact dinner service. But it was the gold sovereigns they were after, and it was the gold sovereigns that went to public auction at Spinks, a coin specialist in London.
80, 94, 96.
The Duro was an absolute success. It was a total success.
Although the auction netted $2.3 million from the coins alone, Sverker gets a lot more out of this than the money.
I'm a treasure hunter, if you will, and I will always be that. I don't think there is any other work which can interest me after this profession.